Do you suck at comsci? Do you want to carry your teammates? Do you have crippling anxiety? If yes, then you've come to the right video. What the hell? Welcome to Animus Insider, a guide to Java. If you have an assessment due this midnight, don't worry. Just ask for an extension. We're not actually gonna help you. You can close this video now. Kidding aside, we're here to give tips and guides on the Java programming language and how we made our text-based game trilogy called Animus. Geovin, take it away.
First, let's get to know our programming language. What is Java? It is a language that involves a three-step process. First, you need to create your program, then compile your code, and lastly, execute your program. However, errors may occur or your program does not run as expected. This is the time that you should go to your code to see where your program went wrong. This cycle repeats until your program does not have any errors and it runs as expected. To create your Java source code, you need to use a text editor or an integrated development environment or IDE. Some examples are Notepad++ and NetBeans. To see how your Java code becomes a program, let's look at this flowchart. Your source code will be compiled using a Java compiler, which will convert your source code into a Java class. This will then be executed by the Java Virtual Machine or JVM and will present what your code tells it to do. One of the most used editors in creating Java projects is Notepad++, and this is also the one used in creating our comsci projects last grade 10. To start off, you need to create a new text file and type in your code. Then, you need to save it on the bin folder inside the Java folder. You then need to open your CMD and go to the aforementioned folder. Type in javac, your filename.java, and wait until it finishes compiling. After it is done, type in java, your filename, and see how your program executes. As said earlier, this process will never end until you are satisfied with your code.
Now that you have your text editors ready, let's start the coding process. So let's say you have a comsci assessment due at 11:59 p.m., which asks you to display Hello World on the screen. You open your chosen text editor but you don't know what to type. Thankfully, you're watching this video. You first type in public class your chosen file name. Go to the next line and type in the public static void main string args. Then type in system.out.println hello world. You will discover more about string outputs in future videos. Remember to close all your functions with parentheses and semicolons. Remember to close your brackets as well. Save your file in the bin folder as a Java file. Open your CMD and go to the bin folder. Type in javac, your chosen filename.java, and after it's done compiling, type in java, your chosen file name, and see the result.
Yeah, baby!
You can download the source code below and run it yourself.
Now that you know how to compile your Java files, let us now get to know what OOP means. Java uses Object-Oriented Programming or OOP to make use of classes and objects in the structure of the code. So what are classes and objects? A class is a template or blueprint that defines the details of an object. On the other hand, objects are specific examples of the created class. Here is an example of a class with its objects. Classes have two characteristics: attributes and behavior. Attributes are the characteristics of the class, while behavior are the methods that the objects of the class can do. Here are some examples of attributes and behaviors of the previous object. Say we have a class called agents. To give it attributes, we initialize the variables by typing public, data type, name equals its initial value. To give it methods, type public void method name and put the code that you want it to do inside the braces. Now, to create objects for your class, you need a constructor. In your class, type in class name. Then, in your public void main or PSVM, type in class name, object name equals new class name. You may also give values to the attributes by typing object name dot attributes equals value. To call out your methods, type in object name dot method and see what happens. You can download the source code below and run it yourself.
And now, let's talk about variables.
Variables are containers that can store values for future use. The syntax for variables is data type variable name equals value. The data types can be divided into two groups, primitive and non-primitive data types. Primitive data types specify the size and type of variable values with no additional methods. Byte, short, int, long, float, double, boolean, and char are examples of primitive data types. On the other hand, non-primitive data types, which is also called reference types, are values which refer to objects of a class. Examples are string, arrays, and classes. Variable names have specific rules in naming them. First, they must begin with a letter, underscore, or $sign, though underscores and $sign are not recommended. After the first initial letter, succeeding elements must be a number or letter. No special characters or spaces. Next, there is no limit in the length of the variable. And lastly, uppercase letters are different from lowercase letters as Java is a case-sensitive language.
Just like a lot of other games, our game also has an RNG or a random number generator. And here's how you do it on Java. Java gives different ways to generate a random number. And one way is to use the Math.Random function. By simply using a Math.Random function, you will generate a random number from 0 to 1. But how do you specify a range for your random number? You use this format. This method can be used to generate randomness in the outcomes of your program.
Did you know that data types int, float, double, and string can be converted into one another? Methods such as parseInt, parseFloat, and parseDouble can be used to convert different values. Moreover, these values can also be converted into a string using the toString method. Here is how to do it. Let us say you have a string named testString with the value 1. To convert it, create a new variable with its value being integer.parseInt testString. You may also use double.parseDouble and float.parseFloat depending on what you need. To convert numerical values into string, you need to use integer or double or float depending on what you need, dot to string.
And that's it for the first episode of Animus Insider, a guide to Java. If you learned something useful, drop a like, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. And we will see you in the next episode. Peace out.